Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. Hey, let's do this. Let's stand up real quick. Give 3 people you don't know a high five real fast. Real fast. 3 people you don't know. You got to get that food's putting you to sleep. My name is Kevin West. I grew up in Southwest Detroit, moved here 20 years ago from Detroit to Bars Mills. And it was a culture shock. The guy across the street put a goat in my ditch, and I didn't know why. So I said, hey, why is this goat in my ditch? And he said, because that way you wouldn't have to mow your ditch. I don't think I was going to mow it anyway, but you can leave the goat in there. It's all right. So I love this place. This is just an incredible area, unbelievable place to raise a family. The people are phenomenal. It's an honor for me to be able to speak today, and I'm just grateful for that. I got way more stuff than I probably can fit in, and I'll make you a deal. Whatever, I will go back and I will record this, and I'll put it on a video, and if you give me your business card, I'll send it to you. And that way, if you want the whole thing, I'll give you the whole enchilada, and you can have it. So just give me your business card at the end, and we'll be good. And I flunked algebra twice. I don't know why I called this the practical tacticals in algebra the next level. I think because the last 4 years have been a journey for me. What this talk is a combination of over 160 interviews from people who were best in the world at what they did. I talked to the best rodeo clowns in the world. I talked to the best rodeo riders in the world. I talked to people been in space. I've talked to people who have performed unbelievable things on an Olympic level. I just tried to gather as much interviews. I've interviewed people in the Fortune 100, in the Fortune 50. I just accumulated all this data. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. I just knew that there was wisdom out there, and if you can coalesce that wisdom and you can cross-reference that wisdom, you can discover some really cool stuff. And so now it's kind of the season where I'm figuring out how to put it all together. What are the commonalities that I'm beginning to see between people who are worlds apart on some level, but yet in another way, they very much think and act the same way. And so today I want to kind of unpack a little bit with you, but before we do that, I got to kind of lay out the premise. Whenever we're growing, whether it's our business or individually, we have a success level 1 and we have success level 2. And as we're going through our success levels, we have success today, and we understand what made us successful today. We do those things, so we try to perfect it, we try to protect it, and we try to scale it. We get in this point where we're in this success level 1, everything's working great, and we're in that growth mode. The challenge we run into is as we do this, it's easy, but it's also easy to get stuck, because the mistake we make is we try to scale in a success level 1 and not move over into this tomorrow version of success. That kind of success requires a whole level of different types of behaviors and ways of thinking and ways that you're structuring your business or your organization. And so what happens is we end up, our focus is more on maintenance and not growth. Now, the thing that we bump into that I started seeing over and over with leaders and businesses is we fall into this talent trap. And somewhere along the way, we think that, well, I'm going to bring in more talented people into our organization. But the reality of that is what you find out is it turns into conflict and struggle. Because as you bring more talented people into your organization, you're trying to fit them in success level 1. The people who are coming into your organization are success level 2 thinkers. They're the people who think bigger. They want to be trusted more. They have other elements of the vision that they want to take from you and advance, but they don't get the opportunity, so they get frustrated. So all of a sudden, just imagine all the squiggly lines happen in that success level 1 circle, and how all the banging that goes around inside of that as people are trying to stretch and fly and can't when they're being held back. And I don't know if you're in that mode right now or if you're in that, but that's a tough place to be. and the conflict and the struggle is real. But here's the deal. In order to go to success level 2, it requires the same thing. It requires some level of conflict and some level of struggle. Because at that level of struggle, you have to be willing to break things that are working. All the things you tried to perfect, and all the things that you tried to protect, and all the ways that you used to do it to make it work the way it's working now, you got to say goodbye to, because there's a bigger circle there that needs to be filled, and you can't touch all the walls on that. That's a much more difficult deal. And so the struggle starts to kick in, and guess what? Once we struggled the first time as leaders, often we don't like to struggle the second time. Would you agree with me? We want it to stay the same. We think it should just, that first circle should just grow gradually. We want to control that growth. Sometimes the market doesn't let you. Sometimes the market pushes you. The thing that we have to understand as leaders, if you're a business owner, you can't delegate the struggle. And it's probably one of the biggest mistakes I see that leaders and business owners make. Well, isn't that what I hired you for? I hired you to struggle. I shouldn't struggle anymore, so I'm going to be mad because people don't act like it's their business around here. You know, I'm running my business, and you know, these guys don't care as much as I do. I'm looking at them and I go, you're right, because it's not their business. It's your business. If you wanted to act like it's their business, then give them a piece of your business. But that's the truth of it. And that's the struggle we have as business owners sometimes. And getting our teams to work through that is very difficult. But if you're trying to delegate the struggle, it doesn't work. So here are some case studies. Let's take a look. Nokia in 2005 had 40% of all the cell phones in the world. They were rocking the free world on the cell phone deal. All of a sudden, iPhone and Samsung comes along. They weren't ready for them. That was the bigger circle. iPhone brought a whole different category to what they were doing. Samsung was doing things that Nokia wasn't even thinking about. Let's take a look at this one. Big city taxi drivers. Who's in circle 2? Uber and Lyft. Let's go to another one. Kodak. Digital technology. You know what's crazy? Anybody know who Steven Sasson is? Steven Sasson is the man who invented digital technology. Think about that. In this small circle. Wasn't working, was it? And all that struggle and all that, and what they did is they protected way too long. It got out. Dell and HP, Apple and Google. Traditional publishing, who's on the other one? iTunes, Amazon, YouTube. Want to keep going? Marriott, Four Seasons. Who's in the big circle? Airbnb, thank you. Cable and satellite TV, Netflix, Hulu. You see what I'm saying? Your business. Who's in the bigger circle? Are you taking the time to think about it? Who's coming for you? Who's going to do things a little bit different than you are because you're spending all your time and energy trying to perfect and protect and scale and success level 1? So as I worked through with these guys, I start realizing that in their leadership and their business, these guys are ridiculously committed to success level 2 and success level 3 and success level 4. They push themselves. They create high levels of necessity for themselves. They call it performance necessity. They put themselves under large amounts of stress, and they do stress and rest in order to perform at higher levels. And we think about that in our business. What does that look like for you? How do you create necessity for yourself, for your team, and for your organization? Because it's powerful when you think about it. No one wants to have this. I heard a guy say this. You know that sick feeling you get when you realize that your 10 years in business has really been year 2 8 times? Not good. Those are sad days. Those are sad days when I'm in a coaching situation and I'm sitting down with a client and we come to this realization that they spent way too long in success level 1. And because fear they were unable to kind of venture into success level 2. So your mandate as a leader is to thrash through what the next level requires. It's the number one indicator of whether you reach that level. It is by far. Listen, every new level you go to will always require something new from you. You cannot do level 2 the same way you did level 1. And it's the reason why when you hear John Maxwell say leaders are readers, when you start saying you have to keep learning, you have to keep growing, it has to be a part of your DNA. It has to be part of things that you do to stretch you. Maybe, and as a coach, my job is to make sure I'm stretching people. So I make people mad for a living. I make people angry. I push them. Because somebody is out there trying to build the next Uber. Someone out there is coming in there. It's the guy who used to work for you, who started his own company, but that failed, and now he's going back to what he knows, which is what he did when he worked for you, and now he's going to compete with you. And he's going to know your secret sauce, he's going to know everything you've done, and he's going to make it better than you are, and he's coming after your market share. That's the brutality of it. That's the struggle. How do we work that out? How do we deal with that? So here's some nuggets that I picked up. This is really random. I'm sorry. I'm really trying to burn through this stuff, I promise. So I'm trying to give you some stuff you can take with you. This is called the 89731. When I started talking to these guys, I started hearing these guys use these numbers. And at first, especially in some of the interviews, especially in the Fortune 50 guys, I started going like, how come I'm hearing this all the time? Where are they getting this from? And I started doing some back research on that to find out where that was coming. Well, actually, it's a different take on the Pareto principle. You know the 20-80 rule or the 80-20 rule, 20% of what you do will get you 80% of your results. Basically, what I've learned is what these guys will do, and if you're a business owner, what they would do, and I'll transfer it to your team as well. He'd say, make a list of all your customers from the top revenue all the way to the bottom, and divide them in 4. So divide it in 4 groups. Your top 25%, people in that top 25% of that will equal about 89% of your revenue. The next 25% will be 7% of your revenue. The next one will be 3 and 1. The question is where are you spending your time and energy? The people in the very top, in the 89ers, and that's what they would use that terminology, 89ers. And I go, 89ers? Like, what are you talking about? It says the 89ers, those are the whales. Those are where we grow our business. If we can go after those 89ers and we can grow them by 2% or 3% based on their overall revenue, we're going to see dramatic growth in our organization. We're going to see some incredible things happen. And I'm going, wow, that's phenomenal. You know, and then I started thinking, wow, you know what? What does that look like with our leaders? What if we did a list of our leaders from who we thought were at the top and bottom, divided them up? Who are our 89ers that are in our organization? And what are we doing for them? How are we helping them go to success level 2? Where are we taking them? I think what Branches Worldwide is doing is phenomenal, and our world needs it more than it's ever needed it. And I can't see you guys not wanting to get on that. Because our world needs us. Better leaders make a better world. And with a faith-based element that's built into that, with emerging leaders who desperately need something like this in their lives, I see it here in the United States with emerging leaders I work with. I couldn't even imagine what that is like worldwide. I'm sorry, I just think that just blew my mind. I didn't know anything about it until I saw the video. But I will say, if there's something you want to give to or you want to follow or pursue, I would do that, because that's going to do some damage, the good kind. That will do good damage. With me so far? Give me a big woohoo. I just want to make sure you're all here, okay? All right, stay with me, guys. All right, here we go. So obviously, when I work with CEOs, we take the same approach. Because as we're developing leaders, if we look at that top 25% of your leaders, I say, hey, these are your 89ers. Everybody who leads a team or leads an organization has 3 verticals. The first vertical you have are the things that only you can do. That's that piece of that vertical. The second vertical are the things you have to do. And the third vertical are the things that others can do. Here's the mistake we make sometimes as leaders. When we go to delegate stuff, where do we delegate from? What vertical? This is the audience participation part of the program, by the way. Throwing that out there. What's that? The third one, the one that others can do. But that's a huge mistake. Because most of the time, if those things don't get done, it really isn't the needle mover. What your 89%ers want is give me something that matters. Because they don't work for money. Emerging leaders are not working for money. They want to make progress. They want to make a difference. They want to move the needle somehow. And that means you got to go to that list of those things you have to do, which, by the way, eat up your time and energy anyway. Why wouldn't you delegate from that second vertical? But we don't. Our instincts go right to the easy stuff. And it's like, okay, just make sure the garbage is taken out twice a day. And, when you do this, and I get they need to be faithful with little. I understand that. But you know what? Sometimes it's a great, and incredible, and awesome risk with young leaders to give them something that really matters. Would you agree with me? Do it. That's the best gift you can give them. Let them make a difference. So now we have hot dogs and zero-sum based innovation. Okay. This is a whole new thing. We switched gears. All right? I told you it'd be random. Okay, so how many of you guys know who Takeru Kobayashi is? Okay, hot dog eating champion. Shows up out of nowhere, okay, and blows the whole thing away. If you watch the video of him on his first of all, when he showed up, he almost got kicked out because they thought he was a little kid who was trying to sneak in there. So he shows up, the record's 25, the placards that they turn over will not go past 25. They just stopped because they thought no one would break the record. I think it might have gone too past. The poor girl who's trying to keep up with him because he does 50, and so all of a sudden she's riding on a yellow pad in the background trying to keep up with this guy who has come up with a whole new way to eat a hot dog. He discovered that most of the guys who ate the hot dogs took a hot dog, they took a bite, they grabbed a cup, they got a drink. He figures out if I break the hot dog in half, I can dip it in 2 cups. I can shove all of them in my mouth at one time, get a drink, plus the bun is already broken down, and I don't even have to touch the cup. He doubled the whole thing. He broke, and guess what? Guess what it cost him? 0. Here's a question for you. What in your business, where are the hot dogs at in your business for you? Are you with me? I know you got them. I know they're there. But you know the problem for us as leaders is we don't take the time to listen to people who got really good ideas. And then we treat them like a little kid trying to sneak into the hot dog eating place. Can I get a witness? Yeah, amen. Thank you. All right. So here's the thing I also picked up. High-performance leaders have tremendous clarity. Because the truth is, a lack of clarity is a great short-term strategy to avoid conflict, but it's a great long-term strategy to guarantee suffering. It will do that because it will just suffer. If you don't have it, you're going to get it. It's just going to be painful to do what you do every day because you don't know where the train's going, right? So, and then people come to me and they go, Kevin, we got problems. I go, no, you don't. You don't have problems. What you have is you have questions. So let's talk about what the questions are. Treat these, what I find with high-performance leaders, they look at problems with questions. Hey, we have a problem. No, we don't have a problem. We have a question. What questions do we need that have to be answered? What are the questions? Think about this. What are your biggest problems right now? Write them out. You take your pad, take your pen. Say, hey, our biggest problem is this. No, what's the question? That's what they're asking. Because solutions live on the other side of questions. How do you connect the dots between the two of them? That's the challenge. That's the fun part. That's the adventure. And that's where problems don't overwhelm us. Now problems energize us. Can I get a witness? Yes. Thank you. You want your problems to energize you. That is the goal. So you got to be clear. And here's the things you want to be clear with the team about. Hey, what's right with us? What's wrong with us? What's missing? What's confused? And you need to be doing this all the time. You need to be saying, hey, what's right? Sit down with your team, put them in a room, put them around the table and say, guys, what's right with us right now? What are all things that are right? What's wrong? And no one will talk because the boss is in the room. But boss, you got to give your team permission to talk because it's going to be some of the best wisdom you're going to get. They're on the front lines. They see it every day. They're trying their best. And they just got to get some things off their chest. You got to give them a chance to speak up. Here's what I've learned. What's wrong isn't always wrong. Most of the time, it's something that's missing or it's something that's confused. And if you can get your team to wrap their minds around how they associate that in their day-to-day, they will start to do that on the mental level. I saw that with skiers. When I started interviewing people who were skiers, I started finding out that the way that they assessed the slopes because of the changing conditions were critical. And so they were always going, what's right, what's wrong, what's missing, what's confused? How do I handle that? Because if you mess up, I didn't know, but they're going like 45 and 50 miles an hour. So it's like, it's pretty serious stuff if you fall. So I imagine it's like, hey, we really got to be on this. We really have to assess the conditions. Are you assessing the conditions of your team and your organization? What are you doing with that? Because this is what it looks like sometimes. Someone that's a 6 and the other one it's a 9. And they're both right. And how do you sort that out? Another high-performance skill is brokering agreements. When I started getting around high-performance leaders and teams, they are phenomenal at this skill set. You cannot have accountability without agreement. You have to be able to sit down and say, hey, we both believe that this outcome is important for us. Here's what your contribution is. Here's what my expectation is. If my expectation is not met based on the level of your contribution, I'm going to confront you. Is that okay? Let's hug, and then we go to work, right? But I mean, that's the challenge. Great leader, they broker agreements. They understand it, because if I'm brokering an agreement with you and you work for me and I'm starting to hear some of the right, wrong, missing, confused that exists, maybe I need to adjust that expectation a little bit. And now you feel valued and now you feel heard, and our ability to move that ball down the field just grew exponentially. Because he's not walking away from me thinking the big guy just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. So why even say it? And it's all the sideways energy that exists in our businesses today and on our teams, in our organizations. And that's something we have to work through. When I study leaders, man, they're great at this. They're great at this, especially people who have large support teams. They also give directional clarity. Unbelievable things, because your team wants to know 4 things. Who we are, where we're going, how we're going to get there, and how do I fit in. They want to know, and that's general. And if you've heard anybody speak on that, I mean, that's something. But you know what? They do have directional clarity. Think about this. This is Ernest Shackleton. How many ever heard of Ernest Shackleton? A couple of you guys. Where did he go? What did he do? Went to Antarctica. Okay, this was the want ad. Men wanted for hazardous journeys, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition, an event of success. Ernest Shackleton. All right, those dudes, those brave men signed up for this, and they all came back alive. Isn't that something? And here's what's crazy. The boat sunk, and they were rowing on an iceberg across the place. You got to read the story. You got to read the story. Phenomenal story. Here's what's crazy. Did they know all those 4 things? Who we are, where we're going. Everybody knew where they were going. That's very clear. I love Ernest Shackleton. That's just a treat when you look at that. High-performance leaders have a daily cadence. This is important. The level of self-leadership that I see in high-performing leaders astounds me. It intimidates me. I end up feeling almost guilty when I'm done talking to them, because I feel like I don't even know if I can even pull that off. So I put together some things that I felt like are replicable, some things that you can take with you, because the levels of how they invest in themselves and how they invest in their focus is off the charts. I couldn't put it all out, but I'll give you some good ones. First of all, what's the beat of your day? Every one of them have a cadence. They know how they walk through the day. They have a consistent beat. Personality does drive a little bit of your cadence. Your cadence is how you walk around, because people play off of how you walk. If you have a relaxed cadence, your team will mirror that. The physiology of our bodies and the mirror neurons in our minds will mirror that. You smile at someone, what do? They smile back, right? So when you are in a relaxed state, you'll have a relaxed team. And as you have to understand that these guys truly understand that the state of the leader is the state of the team. If the leader is harried and upset and behind and everything, it doesn't matter if we're slow or not. It feels like we're like the sky is falling. What do we do with that? The speed of the leader, speed of the team, John Maxwell, the state of the leader, the state of the team. That's something that you see, and their cadence is so important. They have a morning routine. They start their day off with a morning routine. Quiet time, spending some time praying, putting things in perspective is very powerful. And a lot of those leaders do that. And not all of them are believers. It's really interesting to talk to people, who are, regardless of what side of faith you're on, but it's really one of those things where it's like, hey, this is very interesting. There are a lot of parallels in terms of how they do that. And it provides me an opportunity to really talk to them about some cool stuff. Do you have a first practice of the day? What is your first practice? I have some guys that I coach, their first practice of the day is they want to touch everybody in their organization. So their first practice is they walk the floor and they go, John, how are you doing? How's Mary doing? She doing okay? Hey, your son graduates this year, doesn't he? Yeah. He goes over, June, how are you, girl? You doing okay? Thanks for being on the team. Hey, you know what? I read in the paper, and he's on and on. Imagine the kind of impact that makes when you have a first practice. And that may not be your first practice, but some people say, hey, my first practice of the day is I bring clarity to my leaders. I do a stand-up with all my leaders. Some people's first practice of the day is they read. Their first practice is I'm going to read today. Another one is they're going to plan their day. And they go, hey, my first practice is I plan my day. What does that look like for you? Do you have a first practice? Do you have a hello and goodbye standard? Blew me away. But the high-performance leaders, these guys, they have a hello standard. They have a way that they greet people and a very clear intention about how they want people to feel when they're around them. They're very intentional. And they also have a very intentional about how they leave people. They want to make sure that they leave those people feeling valued and encouraged. There just is a sense, and you're thinking like, how can these people think about it? I'm telling you, the more people I talk to, it just became this overwhelming thread. And I'm going, wow, I need to do more of this. I got to be dialed in more this way in my own life. And that's a challenge for us. How do you manage your time and energy? They manage your time and energy, unbelievable. But most of the time, it's not time they're focusing on. It's energy they're focusing on. Because they're thinking about ROE, not ROI. They believe this, that if I bring energy to you, there's a level of reciprocity that comes back to me, and now we get on the same page emotionally and intellectually. And it's like and again, it goes back to those mirror neurons. If we connect and you connect with me in that way, it's kind of funny. Your brain is like a leadership pharmacy, okay? And when your brain starts hitting, it hits a dopamine from encouragement, it just feeds your energy. It feeds your focus, and everyone wants to win. Would you agree with me? Don't we all want to win? I don't know how many people go home and I say, hey, did you win today? They go, I don't know. But I'll show up tomorrow and do what I did today. And I'm thinking, dude, you're spending a third of your life. I think you need to know at the end of the day if you won or not. You need to know if you're winning. And as a leader, it's your job to make sure your team knows it. Your team will never exceed the energy you bring them. You can either walk around the puddle and crab about it, or you can splash in it and stand out. One or the other. I love that, brother. Love that. Love that. You choose your energy. You got to bring it. And that's so key. Here's the thing. I am not advocating acting like a kook. Okay? I'm not saying go back to your business and act like a kook. You got to be you. You got to find a way to be able to bring energy to people in a way that's authentic, and it's you. I'm not saying go back and scare the children. Okay? Don't do that. Please don't do that. Do you set your intentions daily? High performers, they set their intentions. every day. Here are the relations, here are the people I'm meeting with, here are the intentions I want to have for those relationships. Whether they're conflict-based or they're productivity-based, whatever those are, they're thinking that through their baselines and triggers. Hey, my baseline, every day, this is a guy I'm coaching right now, and so he does it. Every day he sets a baseline for his energy. He says, today I want my energy with my team to be a 7. He's a 7 guy. I want it to be a 7. I want it to have good, positive energy. I want it to be in a flow. So every time he looks at that, he's checking his baseline. What's my energy level at? What's my energy level? Well, I'm about 4 right now. I got to get up to a 7 because I'm getting ready to walk on the floor. How do I get up to? So he looks at his hand. So he says, Kevin, I'm just putting it on my hand. And so that's what he does. So he looks at his hand, he sets his baseline, checks his baseline. That's a trigger. I'm going to a 7. And then he goes into his day-to-day. He's making sure that every time he sees this, he's giving everybody what he set his intentions to. Are you setting your intentions? Are you setting your intentions for your team? Are you taking leaders and saying, hey, this is a leader. I'm setting attention to give them more attention. I want to give them more of something, so I'm going to have a trigger, whatever that trigger is. It could be a doorway. It could be anything. But how do you set baselines and triggers? And I'm sorry, I'm blowing through this stuff, but I'm trying to give you as much as I can. High-performance leaders influence culture. Do people feel better about themselves when they've been around you? And I think that's important. It does, and again, it doesn't have to be so overt that it scares people. It can just be genuinely saying thank you. Please and thank you are very powerful words, and they work really well. They work really well. And too often, and more often than not, we take people for granted. People who have shouldered up with us from the beginning, during success level 1, who have now kind of ventured into success level 2, and who used to have a prominent role, now have a smaller role. And you know what? They are glue to you, and you gotta love them or you will lose them. And if you lose those key people, it will haunt you. It will haunt you. You'll miss out. You got to love them. You got to find out who they are, and you need to set the intention to be able to make sure that you let them know that you know. Because they don't care. They don't care about being first. They don't care about scoring the touchdowns. They're people who are behind the scenes, who are faithful and show up and bust it every day, who just need to hear, well done. I see you working. Thank you. And that's a gift. And that's just about being self-aware as a leader. And you got to bring that. I don't care if you're the owner of the company, or if you're a manager, or if you lead a small team, or even if you're among others and you can bring that is so powerful. You got to get your leaders off the hamster wheel. I don't know what this is, but I'm finding employees to be highly, highly dissatisfied in an environment that's currently very difficult to find people. Would you agree with me? 51% of the 89%, remember the 89ers? 51% of those 89ers are looking for a job. They're looking. And if you don't love them, you'll lose them. Hey, listen, if they're doing this whole, hey, I'm doing today what I did yesterday, hoping I get paid more tomorrow, and that's the win, you got work to do. You got to find a way to connect what it is that you're doing with that bigger purpose of their development. And again, they want to make progress, they want to grow. What are you giving them? That's a challenge. You got to get your leaders off the hamster wheel. And so many dudes just do that. They just show up, do today what they did yesterday, hoping they get paid more tomorrow. That's it. Okay, I can do it again. And it's like Groundhog Day. Right? No, you can't do that. You as a leader have to set the tone. Okay. High performance leaders build dynamic teams. There are 3 types of teams. You need to know there are cage teams that are held back, success level 1, perfected, right? Protected, that whole thing. There's a comfortable team. Hey, we're just in the heyday. We're doing good. Things are okay. You good? I'm good. And then there's the charge team. Oops, sorry. Then there's the charge team. And charge teams, this is the key of a charge team. This is funny. The one thing over and over and over when I talk about their high-performing teams that stands out is their communication. The level of communication equals retention. People need to know what's going on because you're giving them a choice of what to fill the gap with. If they're filling the gap with all kinds of stuff from running on a hamster wheel, it's not going to end well. You got to be able to give them something more. You got to give them something that says, hey, this is who we are, this is where we're going, this is how you fit in. These are the key elements. Are you with me so far? Give me a big woohoo. Okay, not asleep yet. Okay, good. All right. Now, we're living in a free agent nation. Would you agree with me? And you know, the key is they also build relationships of trust. Well, let's go back to KD. Okay? This was a big deal back in the day. Remember this? When he went there, because he went to the Golden State Warriors, and all the Warriors were going like, now, who's going to beat them? Right? I mean, they have the super team of all time and all this kind of thing, because that's what people are doing now. They're playing the talent card. And they're going, hey, who can we go after? Because there's no one else out there. So the only thing left is your best players. And they're saying, hey, come and play with us. Come and be on our team. And that's something, and again, people are communicated with. They're going to feel they're valued. It's going to be harder for them to leave. I'm sorry, jumped on that one a little bit too much. All right, so next thing they do is they build relationships of trust. Building relationships of trust is very critical. And it's really, I mean, trust is essence, and we can talk about that. You know how valuable that is. But you got to trust them. That's why that second vertical is so important when you delegate, because it sends a bigger message. And the level of conversations that you have will be so much more powerful. High-performance leaders build dynamic teams that attract talent. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Because you don't want this, right? You don't want Batman around to say, I think someone's in trouble in there. No, you don't want that. You don't want to be looking for Bigfoot, okay? Trying to find that person. You don't want Mo, Larry, and Curly joining your team, all right? You do, though. You do want more cowbell, okay? If you can get more cowbell, you'll take that. But what's interesting is, how are you developing the emerging leaders in the business? Now, here's something. They're not waving at me yet. How am I doing? Am I doing okay? I think I'm good. This is the first time somebody's ever been photoshopped ever in the world. This is the 1911 Solvay Conference. It was held over in, I think, the Netherlands. And the guy at the end of the table, you see the dude at the end of the table with a big old head, bigger head than everybody else? He couldn't make the conference, so they took a picture and they put it on top of another one and then took a picture of it. So that's the first ever Photoshop ever in the history of man. Here's what's interesting about that. 18 of the people in there, this was 11 years before any of them ever got a Nobel Prize. You have Albert Einstein in the group. You have Madame Curie in the group. There are more Nobel laureates in that picture than's ever been captured in a picture before, and it was over a decade before any of them got noticed. They were meeting together to develop one another. They were meeting together to let iron sharpen iron, to build and grow from each other and learn from each other. And it's something that I think that you need to consider in your business. You need to consider putting together your emerging leaders, these young emerging leaders, and setting them up and saying, what are we doing to help give them the kind of ammunition, the kind of good stuff that they can take with them, so as they become leaders in the organization, they can leverage it. And I would say it could be anything from a book study, but here's the thing. I think nothing beats having time with the owner. Having to sit down and saying, hey, what are you learning right now? Having to sit down with key leaders in an organization and saying, hey, here's my story. I was once an emerging leader. This is how I grew. This is how I struggled. This is how I overcame. So it's just interesting when you look at that and you think, wow, you know, what potential lives in your organization right now? High-performance leaders exude common sense, because common sense is not always common practice. Someone always likes it, someone doesn't always like it. This guy told me this one time. He says, we got a bunch of dead raccoons. I go, what are you talking about? He says, in the newspaper, there was a story, and it was about the dead raccoon on the street the city didn't pick up. And so people actually created a monument to the dead raccoon that was laying on the street, and they did this thing, but he's going, but he said, hey, look, we got a bunch of dead, there's a lot of things that need to be dealt with that no one's dealing with. We just have a ton of dead raccoons. High performers, they get rid of that stuff quick. If there's anything that's creating sideways energy in their company, they don't waste time. They get right after it. Over and over and over. Every interview I had, it's like, they called it a collective bias for action against things that take us away from our purpose. And it's like, we deal with dead raccoons. We deal with them quick. We don't let them sit in the street. We don't let people build monuments to them. We're almost there, guys. High-performance leaders leverage imagery daily. And this is the key here, and this is just the question. They image themselves. They image how they're thinking, how they see themselves in the organization. Is the level of my preparation consistent with the level of my goals? Are you preparing for your goals in such a way that you're seeing it, that you can actually see it? I'll talk to visionary people, and it's even before they build a building or in the middle of building a building, and I go, you've been in the building already, haven't you? I go, what color is the carpet? What color are the walls? What are people in the hallways doing? How many offices do you see? And when you're looking at it, it's just framed, but it's the vision that they have. Because when you get around visionary leaders, they just have this ability to be in the moment and in the future at the same time. When they get called to something, when they feel that strong sense of something in their life that needs to be done, they start to visualize how that comes to life, and it's so important. This is my friend Stacy, and he visualized shooting his deer, and he put Kool-Aid in his corn. And I thought, that's a really good idea. You know, how you put Kool-Aid in the corn? He says, well, the deer love the Kool-Aid. So he shot his deer by appointment. He knew that deer would come every day at 10 o'clock in the morning to get that Kool-Aid in the corn. And I thought, now, I'm not a hunter. I went hunting one time, and the guy told me he would never bring me back again. Come on, the deer cannot hear you. Whisper. Okay, I'm whispering, and he's going, I'm never bringing you with me again. But he shot by point. The level of preparation met his goal. High-performance leaders take massive action. They test their stuff out. I mean, come on. How committed are you on that one? Right? Isn't that nuts? That's scary. Okay. High performance defeat the fourth R, fear. The first three fears that we deal with are rejection, ruin, and regret. Would you agree with me? Those are just basic fears. Here's the fear. Wow, this blew my mind. This is the fear that most of them said that they have to overcome. The fear of responsibility. I have an idea, but I don't share the idea. And if you're an employee in the company and you've got great ideas and you're wondering why you can't cross over to really share those ideas, because you're afraid that if you give it and they like it, you got to own it. And you like your comfort zone. You like that comfort world you're in. And so ideas get stagnant. They don't find their way out. Hey, this is a big fear. I run into this more often than not. It's the reason why we don't go to success level 2 more often than not. We just fail to cross the bridge because I don't want to be responsible. I'm not going to set that goal because what if I don't hit it? Because now it will define me. Something to think about. So you can't let fear rule your world, okay? You just can't. Because it will mess you up. Not good, huh? I'll turn the page. All right, so here's the deal. High performance leaders, they love weird. And I will guarantee you this, and I'm done. But I'll guarantee you this. The shoulders that you stand on in the businesses and in the business community you live in and work in are people who were one time or one day criticized and thought of as being weird. Anybody who tries something big, anybody who tries something new, anybody who tries to take that step or that leap is going to meet with a whole bunch of resistance. Would you agree with me? There's a whole lot of criticism that comes. Who does he think he is? And a lot of people, they don't like it. We're good. You know, it's kind of funny. We're okay when people aren't doing good. But when someone's doing good, we don't like that very well. We're not good at celebrating people when they're winning. We always want to tear people down. Why is that way? But there's these weird people in your life that are out there that are great examples for you. And it's time for you to get weird. It's time for you to take that risk. It's time for you to step out. It's time for you to sing happy birthday different than you've ever sang happy birthday before. I was at a conference one time, a guy named Ben Zander, who is the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic, asked us to sing happy birthday to a girl. And they brought the girl up front, and they said, let's all sing happy birthday. And we all sang, happy birthday to you. And at the end, he was like, that's horrible. And he criticized us for how we sing happy birthday. Then he made us all stand up and taught us the right way to sing happy birthday. He says, you have to throw your arms out when you sing happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. And then you have to say their name with endearment. You know, dear Judy, happy birthday to you. And this whole place, 3,000 people are singing happy birthday, throwing their arms out and let out the biggest cheer. And I caught a glimpse through the side of the guy in front of me, and I could see the girl was in tears. You get to choose every day how you sing happy birthday, because the only day you get is the one you got. Because there is no promise for tomorrow. We get what we have here. And the reason why high performance, and the reason why I study it, and the reason why I want to get as many people to understand that you have what has been given you today to bring your best, to bring your A game, to make a difference, to do as much damage, the good kind, as you can. Because you cannot just go through this world. This world needs people willing to be criticized, willing to take risks, willing to take responsibility, willing to do something different within the confines of what God has blessed them with and what He's given you favor for and focus to do. Because you have all been entrusted with people every single day who are all deciding for themselves how they're going to sing happy birthday. And my challenge for you is to get weird with them. Teach them how to sing. And have a blast taking care of your customers. Have a blast putting together cool stuff that changes people's lives and makes their lives better. That's what we do. So thank you for allowing me to share my junk with you today. But I just want to encourage you guys, do some damage and have fun doing it. Smile big and live large and break something, okay? So thank you.